We have a question.
I'd just like to bring you back to your party manifesto on First World Parliament. If just to make sure that citizens actually get an understanding of what it is that you're aiming for, say 4 or 5 years down the road, before the next general elections, what would you foresee are the very real deliverables that you can have coming out from this First World Parliament? To any one of you, just some of the key points that you think that citizens can actually see as the result of this First World Parliament.
I think a lot would also depend on the outcome of this GE, first of all. So if we know, in advance, or rather the outcome of how many MPs we would have in the House, how many would be elected and how many would be NCMPs, of course we can be more definitive in that. But I would say generally that if the outcome of the GE is such that we have a stronger presence in Parliament, I think certainly you would see more momentum in some of the issues that we wish to canvass. Some of them, our beliefs, and you can see them in the manifesto itself. And certainly when it comes to, for example, taking party positions on some of the government agenda, I think the debate would definitely be much more sustained, and we would have different MPs coming up to articulate their position much more clearly. Of course, depending on what happens and so on, we'll have to see what issues there are. There could be potential for other parliamentary mechanisms to be made use of, for example, motions and things like that. But of course, I'm speaking now not knowing what the outcome of the election would be, but this is generally what we would expect.
Well, we were just reading this report on the Straits Times, what Dr. Ng Eng Hen spoke to reporters at the morning walk about today. And he basically said, the system already allows for alternative voices in Parliament. And if Singaporeans go to the polls thinking that more opposition would further their interest, the outcome could be dangerous because it could weaken the government or even cause a change in government with more opposition, as what you all envisage. Can you just comment on this?
First of all, I suppose it's typical PAP. They want some noises in Parliament, but they do not want representation from the people. They also don't want member of parliaments with the mandate to articulate the wishes and the voice of the people. This can be seen from the proposal of expanding the NCMP scheme. If Dr. Ng is engaging or employing the same old tactic of the PAP in the early days, we could have well threatened that there will be fake election results since more than 50% of the seats are contested. That would be his election strategy. And I am confident that the voters will know what to do. They are intelligent enough, they are sophisticated enough today to discern what is right and what is wrong, and what is real and what is unreal, what is hypothetical. And
more opposition MPs, like what you are envisaging, weaken the government, according to this?
If this is the assumption, then why hold election? That might sound all the PAP MPs, the more the merrier, right? If this is the assumption that any election opposition MP into Parliament is weakening of the government, if this is the assumption, then I would like to ask the PAP, then why you hold election?
Many Singaporeans, and I think most people, want a strong government. And we know Singapore, with this lack of resources, in the region where we are always thinking that we are vulnerable, always thinking ahead. Many people want a strong government. What is the WP stand?
Well, we need a competent government. As to strong government, I would say you need a strong system of government, not just a strong government. Strong system of government means that if the government fails, you have another government to be able to take over, and that will give you more political stability and a more secure future. They are depending on one government. In other words, like a car, you need a spare tire, right? I mean, you want to depend on 4 tires, 1 punchek, and that's it. You can't move. So I don't really understand what Dr. Ng was getting at. Perhaps he want to clarify whether he should propose now that since this is the logic, then perhaps we should not have election at all.
Can I just ask one last on what Mr. Chamberlain said, that what WP in fact wants to do is to block constitutional amendments and block other policies they disagree with. My question is,
well, not like all record, okay, never mind.
we're all trying to be pro-Singapore. If will the party be prepared to agree with policies that benefit Singapore even if you do not agree with them?
Well, I think you have to be more specific about, a particular issue, because to talk in the abstract is always dangerous in that sense. But I mean, as we have said before, we intend to use, whatever position that the people of Singapore bestow on us through election to advance Singaporeans' interests. And of course, when it comes to certain policies, we may have different views from the government as to what should be done, and we have to do a critical assessment then as to what we think would benefit Singaporeans. And that's why you'll notice that throughout the years anyway that I've been in Parliament, we don't easily, in that sense, block government agenda or speak out against it unless we have a really solid reason to, and usually that would be grounded in some sort of ground feedback and so on. So, I mean, that is the way we intend to use it.
Okay, let's be more specific, since I asked the question. But we have supported the work income supplement in Parliament, right? I think we support the workfare. We are not disagreeing with the PAP's approach that we should actually increase productivity and give the approach a chance to work before we look at the minimum wage. But we are not saying that there will be no minimum wage. We're saying that, okay, I think we should try that out and see how it works. And I think in recent budget debate, we also agree that the PAP has wisely put back to the reserve what they have used to manage the crisis.